Question 1. Regulatory review indicates that a project is experiencing delays due to unforeseen technical challenges. The project manager is considering how to best communicate this situation to those affected. Which approach best aligns with the PRINCE2 framework for stakeholder management? Option A. Focus communication efforts on the most vocal stakeholders to manage immediate feedback and prevent escalation. Option B. Prioritize informing only those stakeholders directly involved in the technical resolution to expedite decision-making. Option C. Inform the project board and key sponsors immediately, and then address other stakeholders as issues arise. Option D. Develop a revised communication plan that identifies all affected stakeholders, outlines their interests, and details how and when they will be informed and consulted regarding the technical challenges and proposed solutions. Correct answer is C. Inform the project board and key sponsors immediately, and then address other stakeholders as issues arise. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for project progress with the ethical and regulatory obligation to ensure all relevant stakeholders are appropriately informed and have had the opportunity to provide input. The PRINCE2 methodology, which is the sole regulatory framework for this exam, emphasizes stakeholder engagement as a critical success factor. Failure to manage stakeholders effectively can lead to project delays, scope creep, dissatisfaction, and ultimately, project failure, all of which have implications for governance and accountability as defined by PRINCE2 principles. The correct approach involves proactively identifying all stakeholders, understanding their interests and influence, and developing a tailored communication and engagement plan. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and defined roles and responsibilities, as well as the theme of stakeholders. By ensuring all parties are aware of the project's progress, risks, and decisions, and by providing them with appropriate channels for feedback, the project team upholds transparency and fosters trust. This proactive engagement is ethically sound, as it respects the rights and interests of those affected by the project, and is a regulatory expectation within the PRINCE2 framework for effective project governance. An incorrect approach that involves only informing the project board and key sponsors, while seemingly efficient, fails to acknowledge the broader stakeholder landscape. This neglects the PRINCE2 principle of manage, by exception, which relies on accurate and timely information flowing to the right people, and the stakeholders theme, which mandates engagement with all relevant parties. Ethically, this approach can lead to disenfranchised stakeholders who may later raise objections or withdraw support, jeopardizing the project. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on addressing concerns raised by vocal stakeholders, without a structured plan for engaging others, is also professionally unacceptable. This reactive stance ignores the proactive requirements of stakeholder management within PRINCE2. It can lead to an unbalanced representation of interests, where less vocal but equally important stakeholders are overlooked. This violates the principle of manage by stages by potentially creating issues that emerge late in the project lifecycle, and the stakeholders theme by failing to systematically identify and engage all relevant groups. Finally, an approach that prioritizes speed of decision-making over thorough stakeholder consultation risks alienating individuals or groups whose input is crucial for the project's success and acceptance. While PRINCE2 advocates for efficient project management, this efficiency is built upon a foundation of informed decision-making, which inherently includes appropriate stakeholder engagement. This approach fails to adhere to the stakeholders theme and can undermine the continued business justification by not ensuring the project remains aligned with the needs and expectations of all relevant parties. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that begins with a comprehensive stakeholder analysis, followed by the development and execution of a robust stakeholder engagement strategy. This strategy should be integrated into the project plan and reviewed regularly. When faced with competing demands or limited resources, the decision-making process should prioritize engagement based on stakeholder influence and interest, ensuring that critical parties are always involved, while still striving for efficient communication with others. The key is to be systematic, transparent, and responsive. Question 2. Consider a scenario where a PRINCE2 project team encounters a significant technical challenge that is similar to one faced by a previous, completed project. The project manager is aware that lessons learned from that prior project were documented. What is the most appropriate action for the project manager to take to uphold the PRINCE2 principle of learn from experience? Option A. Ask a senior colleague for their opinion on the challenge, but do not review any formal project documentation. Option B. Consult the lessons learned documentation from the previous project to identify potential solutions or insights relevant to the current challenge. Option C. Assume the previous project's lessons learned are irrelevant due to the passage of time and the unique nature of the current project. Option D. Immediately devise a new solution based on the current team's expertise, without consulting any previous project documentation. Correct answer is D. Immediately devise a new solution based on the current team's expertise without consulting any previous project documentation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need to address a project issue with the PRINCE2 principle of learn from experience. Ignoring past lessons learned can lead to repeated mistakes, wasted resources, and a failure to improve project management practices. The challenge lies in ensuring that the project team actively seeks out and applies relevant knowledge from previous projects, rather than reinventing the wheel or dismissing valuable insights. The correct approach involves actively seeking out and reviewing lessons learned from previous, similar projects. This demonstrates a commitment to the PRINCE2 principle of learn from experience, which is fundamental to continuous improvement. By consulting the project closure report or a lessons learned register from a comparable past project, the team can identify potential pitfalls, effective solutions, or alternative approaches that have already been explored. This proactive step allows for informed decision-making, potentially saving time and resources by avoiding known issues or leveraging proven strategies. This aligns with the ethical obligation of a project manager to act with due diligence and competence, ensuring the best possible outcome for the current project and contributing to the organization's overall project management maturity. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with a solution without consulting any prior project information, assuming the current situation is entirely unique. This fails to uphold the learn from experience principle and risks repeating past errors, potentially leading to project delays, budget overruns, or a suboptimal solution. Ethically, this demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to leverage organizational knowledge. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the lessons learned from a previous project because the team members involved are no longer available or the documentation is perceived as outdated. While it's true that context can change, valuable insights often remain relevant. Dismissing them outright without proper evaluation is a failure to learn from experience and can lead to the same negative consequences as not consulting them at all. This can be seen as unprofessional and a missed opportunity for improvement. A third incorrect approach would be to only consider lessons learned that are directly related to the specific technical aspect of the problem, ignoring broader project management or organizational lessons. The learn from experience principle encompasses all aspects of project delivery. Failing to consider a wider range of lessons learned means the team might miss crucial insights related to stakeholder management, risk mitigation, or communication strategies that could be equally, if not more, impactful. This narrow focus is a professional failing, as it limits the potential for comprehensive problem solving and continuous improvement. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes the systematic application of organizational knowledge. This involves 1. Identifying the need for a decision or solution. 2. Actively searching for relevant lessons learned from previous projects, utilizing established repositories or consulting experienced colleagues. 3. Critically evaluating the applicability of these lessons to the current context, adapting them as necessary. 4. Documenting the decision-making process and the rationale for applying or adapting lessons learned. 5. Contributing to the lessons learned process for the current project to benefit future endeavors. Question 3. The performance metrics show a consistent trend of exceeding budget and falling behind schedule on a critical project. The project manager is concerned that reporting these deviations will cause significant disruption and potentially lead to the project being halted, jeopardizing the business case. However, they also recognize that the current trajectory is unsustainable and will likely lead to a much larger problem if not addressed. What is the most appropriate course of action for the project manager to take? Option A. Attempt to resolve the issues internally and present a revised, more optimistic forecast at the next formal review, hoping to avoid immediate disruption. Option B. Immediately escalate the performance concerns to the project board, providing factual data and outlining potential impacts to enable informed decision-making. Option C. Continue to monitor the situation closely and only escalate if the deviations become critical to avoid unnecessary alarm. Option D. Focus solely on accelerating progress to catch up, without formally reporting the current deviations until a significant improvement is achieved. Correct answer is B. Immediately escalate the performance concerns to the project board, providing factual data and outlining potential impacts to enable informed decision-making. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a project manager to balance the immediate need for project progress with the ethical obligation to report potential issues accurately and transparently. Ignoring or downplaying negative performance metrics, even with the intention of avoiding disruption, undermines the principles of good governance and can lead to more significant problems later. The PRINCE2 methodology emphasizes control and accountability, which are directly threatened by a lack of timely and honest escalation. The correct approach involves immediately escalating the performance concerns to the appropriate level of management, as defined by the project's escalation procedures. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and manage by exception. By escalating, the project manager ensures that the project board or relevant stakeholders are aware of deviations from the plan, allowing them to make informed decisions about the project's future. This upholds the ethical duty of transparency and accountability, preventing potential project failure and protecting the organization's interests. Failing to escalate the performance issues or attempting to resolve them without involving the appropriate governance levels represents a significant ethical and professional failure. This approach violates the principle of manage by exception by not informing those responsible for exceptions. It also breaches the ethical duty of honesty and integrity, as it involves withholding critical information that could impact business decisions. Such inaction can lead to a loss of stakeholder confidence, wasted resources, and ultimately project failure, with potentially severe consequences for the organization. Another incorrect approach would be to present a revised, overly optimistic forecast that masks the current performance issues. This is ethically unsound as it is deceptive and misrepresents the project's true status. It undermines the trust between the project team and stakeholders and prevents timely intervention. A further incorrect approach would be to delay escalation until the situation becomes critical. While it might seem like an attempt to avoid immediate disruption, this delay exacerbates the problem. It denies stakeholders the opportunity to address the issues when they are more manageable, leading to a more severe crisis and potentially greater reputational damage. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the project's defined escalation paths and triggers. They should then gather factual data to support their concerns. The decision-making process involves a commitment to transparency, adherence to project governance, and a proactive approach to risk management. When performance deviates from expectations, the professional's duty is to report it promptly and accurately to the designated authorities, enabling informed decision-making and appropriate corrective action. Question 4. The investigation demonstrates that a project has successfully delivered all its planned products, and the project board is keen to close the project to reallocate resources to new initiatives. However, the project manager is concerned that the intended business benefits have not yet been fully realized or measured. Which approach best aligns with PRINCE2 principles for benefits realization in this situation? Option A. Formally close the project and assume that the benefits will materialize over time without further monitoring. Option B. Immediately close the project and transfer all responsibility for benefit realization to the operational teams without a formal handover plan. Option C. Recommend delaying project closure until a post-project review confirms the realization of all key benefits, with clear ownership assigned for ongoing monitoring. Option D. Advise the project board that benefit realization is outside the scope of project management and should be handled entirely by the business. The correct answer is A. Formally close the project and assume that the benefits will materialize over time without further monitoring. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for project closure with the long-term commitment to realizing project benefits. The PRINCE2 methodology, particularly the benefits realization approach, emphasizes that a project is not truly complete until its intended benefits have been achieved and measured. This requires sustained effort beyond the formal project end date, which can be difficult to manage when stakeholders are eager to move on to new initiatives. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the project's value proposition is fully delivered and not prematurely abandoned. The correct approach involves establishing a clear benefits management approach and assigning responsibility for benefit realization post-project. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and the focus on delivering tangible value. By defining how benefits will be measured, who is accountable, and when they will be reviewed, the project team ensures that the investment made is justified by actual outcomes. This proactive planning and ongoing monitoring are ethically sound as they uphold the commitment to stakeholders and the organization's strategic objectives. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on completing project deliverables without a plan for benefit realization fails to uphold the continued business justification principle. This can lead to wasted resources and a failure to achieve the intended business case, which is an ethical failure to deliver on promises made to stakeholders and the organization. Another incorrect approach that prematurely closes the project without adequate benefit tracking or handover to operational teams neglects the crucial post-project phase. This demonstrates a lack of professional accountability and can result in the loss of potential benefits, undermining the project's ultimate purpose. A third incorrect approach that delegates benefit realization without clear ownership or a defined process creates ambiguity and reduces the likelihood of success. This lack of structured accountability is professionally unsound and can lead to benefits being overlooked or not achieved, failing to meet the organization's expectations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes the achievement of business objectives. This involves understanding the project's business case and its intended benefits from the outset. They should advocate for and implement robust benefit management strategies, ensuring clear roles, responsibilities, and measurement mechanisms are in place. When faced with pressure to close a project prematurely, professionals must clearly articulate the risks associated with not realizing benefits and propose a structured approach for post-project benefit management, aligning with the PRINCE2 emphasis on value delivery. Question 5. The analysis reveals that a recent project experienced significant delays and budget overruns due to recurring issues with scope creep and inadequate risk management. To prevent similar problems in future projects, the Project Management Office, PMO, is considering how to best review past projects. Which approach to reviewing past projects is most aligned with the PRINCE2 methodology and best professional practice for process optimization? Option A. Expedite the review process by only examining the final project reports and making broad assumptions about the causes of the issues to quickly move on to new projects. Option B. Focus the review on identifying specific individuals whose decisions or actions contributed most significantly to the delays and overruns, and document these findings for performance management. Option C. Collect superficial data points from past projects, such as the number of change requests, without in-depth analysis or stakeholder consultation, to create a brief summary of findings. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of all past project documentation and stakeholder feedback to identify patterns, root causes of issues, and successful practices, documenting these for future reference and process improvement. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive review of all past project documentation and stakeholder feedback to identify patterns, root causes of issues, and successful practices, documenting these for future reference and process improvement. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in project management, leveraging lessons learned from past projects to improve future performance. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that the review process is thorough, objective, and leads to actionable improvements, rather than becoming a mere formality or a blame-assigning exercise. Careful judgment is required to identify genuine systemic issues and propose practical solutions that align with the PRINCE2 methodology's emphasis on learning and continuous improvement. The correct approach involves a structured and objective review of past project documentation and stakeholder feedback to identify recurring themes, root causes of issues, and successful practices. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and learn from experience. By systematically analyzing what worked and what didn't, and documenting these findings for future projects, The organization fosters a culture of learning and process optimization, directly contributing to increased project success rates and efficient use of resources. This proactive approach is ethically sound, as it aims to improve future outcomes for all stakeholders and demonstrates professional responsibility. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on identifying individual blame for project failures is professionally unacceptable. This violates the PRINCE2 principle of manage by stages and manage by exception, which advocate for a controlled and proactive approach to risk and issue management, rather than retrospective finger-pointing. Such an approach can create a climate of fear, discourage open communication, and hinder the identification of genuine process weaknesses. It is ethically questionable as it can lead to unfair treatment of individuals and does not serve the broader organizational goal of learning and improvement. Another incorrect approach that involves superficial data collection without deep analysis or actionable recommendations fails to uphold the PRINCE2 principle of focus on products. Data might be collected. Its lack of meaningful interpretation means that no real learning occurs and no improvements can be made. This is a failure of professional diligence and an inefficient use of resources, as the effort expended on review yields no tangible benefit. It is ethically problematic as it misrepresents the value of the review process to stakeholders. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes speed and expediency over thoroughness, leading to the omission of critical documentation or stakeholder interviews, also fails to meet professional standards. This approach undermines the PRINCE2 principle of tailor to suit the project environment by neglecting the necessary steps for effective learning. It is professionally irresponsible as it risks perpetuating past mistakes and can lead to significant future project issues, ultimately impacting the organization's reputation and financial health. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the PRINCE2 principles and themes relevant to project review and lessons learned. 2. Committing to an objective and evidence-based analysis of past project performance. 3. Engaging relevant stakeholders to gather diverse perspectives. 4. Focusing on identifying root causes and systemic issues rather than individual blame. 5. Developing clear, actionable recommendations for process improvement. 6. Ensuring that lessons learned are documented and disseminated effectively for future use. Question 6. The assessment process reveals that a project team is struggling to articulate the primary benefit of dividing a PRINCE2 project into distinct stages. Which of the following best describes the fundamental purpose of project stages within the PRINCE2 framework? Option A. To allow the project team to complete large blocks of work without significant external intervention until the final delivery. Option B. Provide a structured mechanism for management to review progress, assess risks, and make informed decisions about continuing the project at regular intervals. Option C. To serve as a way to track the individual efforts of team members and ensure their tasks are completed on time. Option D. To create a historical record of all project activities for future reference and auditing purposes. The correct answer is B. To provide a structured mechanism for management to review progress, assess risks, and make informed decisions about continuing the project at regular intervals. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge in project management, ensuring that project stages are effectively utilized to control progress and manage risk. PRINCE2 emphasizes the importance of distinct project stages, each with defined objectives and controls, to provide management with regular opportunities to review progress and make informed decisions. The professional challenge lies in correctly identifying the purpose of these stages and how they contribute to overall project governance, particularly in the context of PRINCE2's structured approach. Misunderstanding the role of stages can lead to inadequate control, missed opportunities for course correction, and ultimately, project failure. The correct approach involves recognizing that each PRINCE2 project stage serves as a distinct management checkpoint. The purpose of a project stage is to break down the project into manageable and controllable phases, allowing for regular review of progress, risks, and issues. At the end of each stage, the project board reviews the stage's performance against its plan and decides whether to authorize the next stage. This iterative process ensures that the project remains aligned with business justification and that decisions are made based on current information. This aligns with PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and managed by stages, providing a structured framework for governance and control. An incorrect approach would be to view project stages as merely arbitrary divisions of work without specific management oversight. This fails to leverage the control mechanisms inherent in PRINCE2, such as the end-stage assessment, where the project board scrutinizes the completed stage and approves the plan for the next. Another incorrect approach is to assume that once a stage is completed, it is finalized and cannot be revisited, ignoring the iterative nature of PRINCE2, where lessons learned from one stage inform the planning of subsequent ones. Furthermore, treating stages as solely for the benefit of the project team without involving the project board in their review and authorization fundamentally undermines the governance structure that PRINCE2 establishes. Professional decision-making in this context requires a thorough understanding of the PRINCE2 methodology. When faced with questions about project stages, professionals should recall the core principles and processes. They should consider how each stage contributes to the overall project lifecycle, the specific management products associated with stage boundaries, e.g., end stage report, next stage plan, and the roles and responsibilities of the project board in authorizing progression. The focus should always be on how these stages facilitate control, risk management, and the assurance of continued business justification. Question 7. To address the challenge of ensuring a project remains aligned with strategic objectives and delivers value, which approach best reflects the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification throughout the project lifecycle? Option A. Performing a single, thorough review of the business justification only at the project's initiation. Option B. Conducting a comprehensive review of the business justification at the end of each project stage and whenever a significant change is proposed. Option C. Assuming the initial business case remains valid unless explicitly challenged by a stakeholder. Option D. Relying on the project manager to informally track market changes and report any concerns about the business justification as they arise. Correct answer is B. Conducting a comprehensive review of the business justification at the end of each project stage and whenever a significant change is proposed. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because maintaining the business justification for a project is a continuous and critical activity, not a one-off event. Projects are initiated based on an expected business case, but the environment, assumptions, and benefits can change significantly throughout the project lifecycle. Failure to regularly review and update this justification can lead to wasted resources on projects that are no longer viable or aligned with strategic objectives. Careful judgment is required to determine the appropriate timing and depth of these reviews. The correct approach involves a structured and ongoing review of the business justification at key project milestones, and when significant changes occur. This aligns with PRINCE2 emphasis on continued business justification as a fundamental principle. By regularly revisiting the business case, the project board can ensure that the project remains aligned with business objectives, that the expected benefits are still achievable, and that the costs are still justified by the anticipated returns. This proactive approach allows for informed decisions about whether to continue, adapt, or terminate the project, thereby safeguarding organizational investment and strategic focus. An incorrect approach of only reviewing the business justification at the project initiation phase fails to acknowledge the dynamic nature of business environments. This can lead to a project continuing long after its original justification has eroded due to market shifts, competitor actions, or internal strategic reorientation. This represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it demonstrates a lack of due diligence and responsible stewardship of organizational resources. Another incorrect approach of relying solely on the project manager to monitor and report on business justification without formal review by the project board is also professionally unacceptable. While the project manager has a role in highlighting potential issues, the ultimate accountability for the project's continued viability rests with the project board. This abdication of responsibility by the project board can lead to a lack of oversight and a failure to make timely, strategic decisions. A further incorrect approach of assuming that once the business case is approved, it remains valid throughout the project lifecycle is a dangerous assumption. This ignores the inherent risks and uncertainties in any project. Without periodic revalidation, the project board may not be aware of emerging risks that impact the business justification, leading to continued investment in a project that is no longer delivering value. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve understanding that PRINCE2 is built on the principle of continued business justification. Professionals should proactively identify triggers for review e.g., end of a stage, significant change requests, external market shifts, and ensure that the project board is actively engaged in these reviews. This involves establishing clear responsibilities for monitoring and reporting on the business justification, and fostering an environment where concerns about its validity can be raised and addressed without fear of reprisal. Question 8. The review process indicates that the current stage of the new product development project is nearing completion, with several key deliverables slightly behind schedule and exceeding their allocated budget tolerances by a small margin. The project manager is considering how to proceed. Which of the following represents the most appropriate PRINCE2 approach to manage by stages in this situation? Option A. Continue with the planned activities for the next stage, assuming the minor deviations will be rectified as the project progresses. Option B. Initiate a next stage or end project decision point, requiring a review of the current stage's performance, the updated business case, and a plan for the next stage. Option C. Proceed to the next stage but do not update the project plan or business case until the end of that stage. Option D. Immediately recommend ending the project due to the budget and schedule overruns, without further analysis. The correct answer is B. Initiate a next stage or end project decision point, requiring a review of the current stage's performance, the updated business case, and a plan for the next stage. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a project manager to balance the need for timely progress with the PRINCE2 principle of manage by stages. The project manager must ensure that the project remains within its defined tolerances and that the business case remains viable before committing further resources. This requires careful judgment in deciding whether to proceed to the next stage or to take corrective action. The correct approach involves the project manager initiating a next stage or end project decision point, which is a fundamental aspect of the manage by stages principle. This decision point requires the project manager to review the current stage's performance against the plan, assess the continued viability of the business case, and ensure that the project is still aligned with the overall objectives. The PRINCE2 framework mandates this structured approach to control and oversight, ensuring that the project is only allowed to proceed if it remains justified and achievable. This aligns with the PRINCE2 governance structure, which emphasizes control and accountability at each stage. An incorrect approach would be to simply continue with the planned activities without a formal decision point. This bypasses the essential control mechanism of manage by stages, potentially leading to wasted resources on a project that is no longer viable or has deviated significantly from its objectives. This failure to adhere to the PRINCE2 governance structure undermines accountability and can lead to project failure. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately recommend ending the project without a thorough review of the current stage's performance and the potential for corrective actions. While ending a project is a valid outcome, it should only be done after a proper assessment, which includes evaluating if the project can be brought back within tolerances. This premature termination ignores the possibility of recovery and the PRINCE2 principle of focusing on products. A third incorrect approach would be to proceed to the next stage without updating the project plan and business case to reflect the current situation. This creates a disconnect between the actual project status and its documented justification, making it impossible to effectively manage tolerances and make informed decisions. This directly contravenes the PRINCE2 principle of continued business viability. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to the PRINCE2 principles and processes. When faced with a situation where a stage is nearing completion, the first step is to review the stage's performance against the plan and tolerances. This review should inform the decision on whether to proceed to the next stage, request an exception, or terminate the project. The project manager must then formally present their recommendation to the appropriate corporate or program management, supported by updated project documentation, to enable an informed decision. Question 9. What factors determine the appropriate PRINCE2 approach for managing a proposed change to the project scope, considering the need for both agility and controlled governance? Option A. The impact of the change on the project's objectives, scope, time, cost, quality, risk, and benefits, and the defined change control approach. Option B. The perceived urgency of the change without formal impact assessment. Option C. The availability of resources to implement the change immediately. Option D. the personal preference of the project manager for a particular change management technique? The correct answer is A. The impact of the change on the project's objectives, scope, time, cost, quality, risk, and benefits, and the defined change control approach. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a project manager to balance the immediate need for a solution with the long-term implications of project governance and control, all within the PRINCE2 framework. The project manager must exercise careful judgment to ensure that any deviation from the standard PRINCE2 approach is justified, documented, and approved, preventing uncontrolled scope creep or the bypassing of essential quality checks. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the proposed change against the PRINCE2 principles and processes, specifically focusing on the manage by exception principle and the change control approach. This means evaluating the impact of the change on the project's objectives, scope, time, cost, quality, risk, and benefits. If the change is significant, it should be managed through the formal change control procedure, potentially requiring a revised business case and approval from the project board. This aligns with the PRINCE2 emphasis on controlled project execution and accountability, ensuring that changes are understood, agreed upon, and integrated appropriately, thereby maintaining project integrity and stakeholder confidence. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement the change without proper assessment or approval. This bypasses the PRINCE2 manage by exception principle by not escalating the deviation from the baseline plan for project board approval. It also fails to adhere to the change control approach, which mandates a structured process for evaluating and approving changes. Such an action risks uncontrolled scope expansion, budget overruns, and quality degradation, as the implications of the change have not been fully understood or authorized. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the change outright without considering its potential benefits or necessity. While PRINCE2 promotes control, it also aims to deliver business value. Ignoring a potentially beneficial change without proper evaluation can lead to missed opportunities and a project that fails to meet evolving business needs, contradicting the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification. A third incorrect approach would be to implement the change informally, assuming it is minor and will not impact the project significantly. This undermines the PRINCE2 principle of defined roles and responsibilities, and manage by exception. Even minor changes can have unforeseen ripple effects, and the lack of formal tracking and approval means that the project's baseline is not accurately maintained, making future control and reporting unreliable. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to the PRINCE2 principles and processes. This involves 1. Understanding the change request and its potential impact. 2. Consulting the project's change control approach and risk management approach. 3. Assessing the change against the project's baseline scope, time, cost, quality, benefits. 4. Determining the appropriate level of control and approval required, escalating to the project board if necessary. 5. Documenting the decision and its rationale. Question 10. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a proposed change to the project scope will significantly increase the project's value but also its cost and timeline. The project manager has identified the need for this change and has gathered all relevant information. Who is ultimately accountable for approving this significant deviation from the original project plan? Option A, the project board executive. Option B, the project assurance function. Option C, the project manager. Option D, the team manager. The correct answer is A, the project board executive. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a clear understanding of PRINCE2 roles and responsibilities, specifically concerning accountability for project decisions and outcomes. The challenge lies in correctly identifying who holds the ultimate authority and responsibility for approving significant deviations from the project plan, especially when those deviations have financial implications. Misinterpreting these roles can lead to project delays, budget overruns, and a breakdown in governance. The correct approach involves the project board, specifically the executive, being accountable for approving significant changes. This is because the PRINCE2 framework designates the project board as the ultimate decision-making body for the project. The executive, as the chair of the project board, is accountable for ensuring the project remains aligned with business objectives and for authorizing any changes that impact the project's viability or scope. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and defined roles and responsibilities, ensuring that decisions are made at the appropriate level of authority and with full consideration of business interests. An incorrect approach would be for the project manager to unilaterally approve the change. This fails to adhere to the defined roles and responsibilities within PRINCE2. The project manager's role is to manage the project on a day-to-day basis and to escalate issues and exceptions to the project board. Approving a significant change without proper authorization would be a breach of their delegated authority and could lead to uncontrolled scope creep and a loss of business focus. Another incorrect approach would be for the team manager to approve the change. Team managers are responsible for managing the work within their specific team or work package. They do not have the authority to approve changes that impact the overall project scope, budget, or timeline. Delegating this decision to a team manager would bypass the established governance structure and undermine the accountability of the project board. A further incorrect approach would be for the project assurance function to approve the change. Project assurance's role is to provide independent advice and guidance to the project board, ensuring that the project is being managed effectively and that the business case remains valid. They do not have decision-making authority for project changes. Their role is to scrutinize and advise. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Understanding the PRINCE2 roles and responsibilities for the specific project. 2. Identifying the nature and impact of the proposed change. 3. Determining the level of authority required for approval based on the PRINCE2 process for managing exceptions and changes. 4. Escalating the decision to the appropriate authority, in this case, the project board, with all necessary information for them to make an informed judgment. 5. Documenting the decision and its rationale according to project procedures. Question 11. Quality control measures reveal that the project manager, under pressure to accelerate delivery, has instructed the team to commence activities for the next management stage based on a preliminary outline of tasks, without awaiting formal approval of the detailed management stage plan by the project board. What is the most appropriate PRINCE2 compliant action for the project manager to take immediately? Option A. Halt all activities related to the next management stage until the detailed management stage plan is formally approved by the project board. Option B. Proceed with the next management stage as planned, assuming the project board's approval of the overall project plan implicitly covers subsequent stage plans. Option C. Request the project board to approve the preliminary outline of tasks as an interim measure to allow progress to continue. Option D. Continue with the preliminary activities for the next management stage, but ensure that any deviations from the eventual approved plan are meticulously documented. The correct answer is A. Halt all activities related to the next management stage until the detailed management stage plan is formally approved by the project board. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in project management, where the pressure to deliver quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of planning and control. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for timely progress with the PRINCE2 requirement for robust management stage planning, which is fundamental to effective governance and risk management. Careful judgment is required to ensure that planning activities are not merely a formality, but a substantive process that underpins the project's success and adherence to its defined controls. The correct approach involves the project manager ensuring that the plan for the next management stage is developed and approved by the project board before the current stage ends. This aligns directly with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and the Manage by Stages theme. The PRINCE2 framework mandates that each management stage should have a defined plan, and the approval of this plan by the project board signifies their continued commitment and assurance that the project remains viable. This structured approach allows for regular checkpoints, enabling the project board to review progress, assess risks, and make informed decisions about whether to continue the project, redirect it, or terminate it. This adherence to the PRINCE2 governance structure is a regulatory and ethical imperative within the framework, ensuring accountability and control. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with activities for the next management stage based on an informal understanding or a draft plan without formal approval. This bypasses the crucial governance checkpoint, violating the Manage by Stages principle. It creates a significant risk of the project deviating from its objectives or business case without the project board's awareness or consent, thereby undermining the continued business justification principle. Furthermore, it demonstrates a failure to adhere to the defined roles and responsibilities within PRINCE2, specifically the project board's authority to approve stage plans. Another incorrect approach would be to delay the planning for the next management stage until after the current stage has concluded, citing a need to incorporate lessons learned from the current stage. While lessons learned are valuable, they should inform the planning of the next stage, not excuse the absence of a plan for it. The PRINCE2 process requires a plan for the upcoming stage to be ready for approval before the current stage ends. This delay creates a gap in governance and control, leaving the project in an undefined state and potentially exposing it to unmanaged risks. A third incorrect approach would be to assume that because the overall project plan is approved, detailed planning for subsequent management stages is unnecessary until much later. The PRINCE2 methodology emphasizes that the project plan provides a high-level overview, while management stage plans provide the detailed scope, time, cost, and quality requirements for each distinct phase. Omitting or deferring detailed stage planning undermines the ability to effectively manage and control the project at a granular level, increasing the likelihood of scope creep, budget overruns, and missed deadlines. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the PRINCE2 principles and themes. When faced with pressure to expedite, a project manager must first reaffirm the importance of the PRINCE2 governance structure. They should communicate the risks associated with deviating from the mandated processes, particularly regarding stage planning and approval. The decision-making framework should prioritize adherence to the PRINCE2 framework's control mechanisms, ensuring that all planning and approval gates are respected to maintain project viability and accountability. Question 12. Strategic planning requires a clear understanding of project progress and future direction. During a PRINCE2 project, the project manager has just completed the activities for the current stage. The project board is eager to start the next phase of development to meet a critical market deadline. The project manager is aware that a formal end-stage report needs to be compiled and reviewed, and a detailed next-stage plan must be approved before commencing the next stage. However, to save time and maintain momentum, the project manager is considering proposing to the project board that they proceed directly to the next stage based on a verbal summary of progress and a high-level outline of the next stage's activities, with formal documentation to follow later. What is the most appropriate course of action for the project manager? Option A. Inform the project board that the formal end-stage report and next-stage plan must be completed and approved before the next stage can commence, explaining the risks of proceeding without them. Option B. Delegate the creation of the end-stage report and next-stage plan to the team, allowing them to focus on the next stage's development activities. Option C. Focus solely on the development activities of the next stage, assuming the project board will approve the documentation retrospectively. Option D. Proceed with the next stage based on a verbal summary and high-level outline, with formal documentation to follow to meet the market deadline. Correct answer is D. Proceed with the next stage based on a verbal summary and high-level outline, with formal documentation to follow to meet the market deadline. Explanation. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge in PRINCE2 projects, managing the transition between project stages. The challenge lies in balancing the need for continued progress with the requirement for formal control and assurance at stage boundaries. Project managers often face pressure to maintain momentum, which can lead to bypassing or rushing critical control activities. This can compromise the project's governance, risk management, and overall alignment with business objectives, potentially leading to wasted resources or project failure. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the project remains on track and continues to be viable from a business perspective, without sacrificing the structured control that PRINCE2 provides. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the previous stage's performance, an assessment of the current project status against the plan, and a clear definition of the next stage's objectives and activities. This includes ensuring that all necessary documentation, such as the end-stage report and the next stage plan, are completed and approved by the appropriate authorities, typically the project board. This adherence to the PRINCE2 stage boundary process provides the necessary governance and control, ensuring that the project continues to be justified, that risks are managed, and that the business case remains valid. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and managed by exception, ensuring that decisions are made at the right level and based on accurate information. An incorrect approach would be to proceed to the next stage without a formal review and approval of the end-stage report and next-stage plan. This bypasses the project board's oversight, violating the principle of manage by stages. It also fails to ensure continued business justification, as the project's viability may not have been reassessed. Another incorrect approach would be to approve the next stage based on incomplete or inaccurate information, which undermines the managed by exception principle and the integrity of project reporting. Rushing the approval process to maintain perceived momentum without proper due diligence is a failure of professional responsibility and a breach of PRINCE2 governance. Professionals should approach stage boundaries by first understanding the purpose of each control activity within the PRINCE2 framework. They should then proactively plan for these activities, ensuring sufficient time and resources are allocated. When faced with pressure to deviate, they must clearly articulate the risks and consequences of not following the prescribed process to the project board, reinforcing the importance of governance and control for successful project delivery. The decision-making process should always prioritize adherence to the PRINCE2 principles and processes, as these are designed to provide robust project management and ensure that projects deliver the intended benefits. Question 13. Benchmark analysis indicates that a PRINCE2 project manager is experiencing challenges in ensuring that project progress information is effectively communicated to a diverse group of stakeholders, ranging from the project board to operational teams. Some stakeholders feel they are receiving too much irrelevant information, while others feel they are not receiving critical updates in a timely manner. The project manager is considering revising the project's reporting mechanisms. Which of the following approaches best aligns with PRINCE2 principles for managing communication and reporting structures? Option A. Develop and implement a tailored communication management approach that clearly defines stakeholder information needs, reporting formats, frequencies, and responsibilities, ensuring alignment with the PRINCE2 governance structure and management by exception. Option B. Bypass the project board and directly communicate critical project updates to senior executives to expedite decision-making, without formally documenting these communications. Option C. Create a series of informal ad hoc progress updates based on the project manager's immediate perception of what might be important, without a documented plan or stakeholder agreement. Option D. Provide all project status reports to every stakeholder, regardless of their specific role or interest, to ensure complete transparency and avoid any potential for misinformation. The correct answer is A. Develop and implement a tailored communication management approach that clearly defines stakeholder information needs, reporting formats, frequencies, and responsibilities, ensuring alignment with the PRINCE2 governance structure and management by exception. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for timely and accurate project information with the established PRINCE2 communication and reporting structures. The project manager must ensure that all stakeholders receive the information they need, in the format they expect, and at the frequency agreed upon, without overwhelming them or creating unnecessary administrative burden. This requires a nuanced understanding of stakeholder needs and the PRINCE2 framework's flexibility within its defined controls. The correct approach involves tailoring the communication management approach to reflect the specific needs of the project and its stakeholders, ensuring that reporting aligns with the PRINCE2 principles of management, by exception, and defined roles and responsibilities. This approach is right because it directly addresses the PRINCE2 requirement for a communication management approach that defines who needs what information, when, how it will be delivered, and by whom. It ensures that reporting is purposeful, targeted, and contributes to effective project governance and decision-making, thereby adhering to the PRINCE2 emphasis on controlled progress and stakeholder engagement. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on providing every piece of project data to all stakeholders without consideration for their specific needs or the PRINCE2 reporting principles would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a misunderstanding of the PRINCE2 principle of management by exception, leading to information overload and potentially obscuring critical issues. It also neglects the PRINCE2 emphasis on defined roles and responsibilities, potentially assigning reporting duties without clear accountability or purpose. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established reporting lines to communicate directly with senior stakeholders, without informing the project board or relevant stakeholders would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This undermines the PRINCE2 governance structure, which relies on clear escalation paths and controlled information flow through the project board. Such an action could lead to misinformed decisions by senior management and a breakdown of trust within the project team and with stakeholders. A further incorrect approach that involves creating ad hoc reports without a defined purpose or audience, or failing to document the communication management approach, would also be professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of control and foresight, deviating from the PRINCE2 requirement for a documented and agreed-upon communication plan. It leads to inconsistent and potentially unreliable reporting, hindering effective project oversight and decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough stakeholder analysis to understand their information requirements, a clear definition of reporting requirements aligned with PRINCE2 principles, e.g., progress reports, end-stage reports, and the development of a comprehensive communication management approach. This approach should be agreed upon with the project board and key stakeholders, and regularly reviewed and updated as the project progresses. The focus should always be on providing relevant, timely, and accurate information to support effective project governance and decision-making, while adhering to the PRINCE2 framework. Question 14. System analysis indicates that a critical supplier for a PRINCE2 project has unexpectedly increased their prices by 20% due to unforeseen market conditions. This increase will significantly exceed the project manager's delegated budget authority and will impact the project's overall cost tolerance. The project manager has identified potential options, including reducing the scope of certain deliverables or seeking alternative, potentially less experienced suppliers. What is the most appropriate course of action for the project manager in this situation? Option A. Inform the project board of the price increase and unilaterally decide to reduce the scope of deliverables to stay within the original budget. Option B. Escalate the issue to the project board with a clear explanation of the situation, the impact on the project's budget, and proposed options for their decision. Option C. Attempt to secure additional funding from a different department within the organization without informing the project board. Option D. Absorb the increased costs by reducing the quality of the project's deliverables to meet the original budget. The correct answer is B. Escalate the issue to the project board with a clear explanation of the situation, the impact on the project's budget, and proposed options for their decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in project management where the project manager, PM, faces conflicting priorities and resource constraints, requiring careful navigation of their responsibilities and the roles of the project board. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to deliver the project within its constraints against the potential impact of external factors on project objectives, and understanding the appropriate escalation and decision-making channels. The correct approach involves the project manager escalating the issue to the project board, as it falls outside their delegated authority and impacts the project's viability. PRINCE2 clearly defines the roles and responsibilities, with the project board holding ultimate accountability for the project's success and having the authority to approve changes to the project's scope, time, cost, or quality. The project manager's role is to manage the project on a day-to-day basis and to escalate issues that threaten the project's objectives or require decisions beyond their delegated authority. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and manage by exception, where the project board is informed of deviations from plan and makes necessary decisions. An incorrect approach would be for the project manager to unilaterally decide to reduce the scope without consulting the project board. This violates the principle of continued business justification, as the business case may no longer be valid with a reduced scope, and it bypasses the project board's accountability for approving such significant changes. It also fails to adhere to manage by exception, as the project board should be informed of potential deviations from the agreed-upon scope. Another incorrect approach would be for the project manager to attempt to secure additional funding from external sources without the project board's knowledge or approval. This undermines the project board's control over the project's finances and could lead to unapproved expenditure or commitments that the organization cannot support. It also bypasses the established governance structure for financial decisions. A further incorrect approach would be for the project manager to simply absorb the increased costs and deliver the project with reduced quality. This directly contradicts the PRINCE2 principle of product focus, which emphasizes delivering products that meet specified quality criteria. It also fails to manage by exception, as the project board should be aware of and approve any compromises to quality that impact the project's deliverables and business justification. The professional decision-making process in such situations involves 1. Identifying the issue and its potential impact on project objectives, scope, time, cost, quality, benefits, risk. 2. Assessing whether the issue falls within the project manager's delegated authority. 3. If it exceeds delegated authority or significantly impacts project objectives, preparing a clear and concise escalation to the project board, outlining the problem, its impact, and recommended options. 4. Presenting the information to the project board and awaiting their decision. 5. Documenting the decision and any subsequent actions. Question 15. Quality control measures reveal a significant defect in a key component of the product being developed, which could impact its usability and safety. The project manager is under pressure to meet a tight deadline for product launch. What is the most appropriate PRINCE2 approach to manage this situation? Option A. Document the defect as a product issue and initiate a formal change request to assess the impact and propose a solution, adhering to the project's change control procedure. Option B. Instruct the development team to fix the defect without formal documentation or assessment to save time. Option C. Immediately implement a temporary workaround to ensure the product can be launched on time and address the defect in a later release. Option D. Advise the business to accept the defect as a known issue and proceed with the launch, as the deadline is critical. The correct answer is C. Immediately implement a temporary workaround to ensure the product can be launched on time and address the defect in a later release. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need to address a product defect with the PRINCE2 principle of focusing on products. The project manager must ensure that the product remains fit for purpose and meets the defined quality criteria, even when faced with external pressure or perceived urgency. The challenge lies in making a decision that upholds the integrity of the product and the project's objectives without compromising quality or introducing further risks. The correct approach involves initiating a formal change control process to assess the impact of the defect and propose a solution. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of focusing on products, which mandates that projects are organized around products and that there is a clear understanding of what needs to be delivered and to what standard. By raising a product issue and initiating a change request, the project manager ensures that the defect is documented, analyzed, and that any proposed solution is evaluated for its impact on scope, time, cost, and quality. This process guarantees that decisions regarding product defects are made with full awareness of their consequences and are aligned with the project's business case and quality expectations. This adheres to the PRINCE2 guidance on managing issues and changes, ensuring that product integrity is maintained. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement a workaround without proper assessment. This fails to focus on products by potentially introducing a quick fix that doesn't address the root cause of the defect or meet the defined quality criteria, bypasses the necessary steps for evaluating the impact on the product's fitness for purpose, and could lead to further issues or a product that does not meet stakeholder expectations, thereby violating the PRINCE2 principle of focusing on products. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the defect and proceed with delivery. This is a direct contravention of the PRINCE2 principle of focusing on products, as it means delivering a product that is known to be defective and therefore not fit for purpose. This would lead to a product that fails to meet quality expectations and could have significant negative consequences for the business, undermining the project's objectives and the PRINCE2 emphasis on delivering usable products. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured approach to issue management. First, acknowledge and document the issue. Second, assess the impact of the issue on the product and the project. Third, follow the defined project processes for managing issues and changes, which in PRINCE2 typically involves raising an issue, assessing it, and potentially creating a change request. Fourth, ensure that any proposed solution is evaluated against the product description and quality criteria. Finally, communicate the decision and its rationale to relevant stakeholders. This systematic process ensures that decisions are objective, well-informed, and aligned with project governance and product quality objectives. Question 16. Operational review demonstrates that the Project Alpha initiative, initially planned as a small-scale, low-complexity undertaking, is now exhibiting characteristics of a medium-sized project with several interdependencies and emerging risks. The project team has identified that the current management controls and reporting frequency are insufficient to effectively manage the project's evolving scope and potential issues. What is the most appropriate PRINCE2 aligned action for the project manager to take? Option A. Immediately escalate the findings to the project board, requesting a formal review and retailoring of the project management approach to align with the project's actual size and complexity. Option B. Implement a completely new, more rigorous project management framework without consulting the project board, believing it will solve the emerging problems. Option C. Inform the team to focus solely on delivering the original scope, deferring any discussions about increased complexity until after the project's initial delivery phase. Option D. Continue with the current project management approach, assuming the team can manage the increased complexity through informal communication and additional effort. The correct answer is A. Immediately escalate the findings to the project board, requesting a formal review and retailoring of the project management approach to align with the project's actual size and complexity. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in project management, where the initial assessment of project size and complexity might not align with the reality discovered during execution. The PRINCE2 methodology emphasizes tailoring the project management approach to the specific project. Failing to adapt the project's controls and management structure to its actual size and complexity can lead to significant inefficiencies, risks, and potential project failure. The challenge lies in recognizing when the initial assumptions are no longer valid and making timely, informed decisions about adjustments. The correct approach involves a proactive and adaptive response to the findings of the operational review. This means acknowledging the discrepancy between the planned and actual project characteristics and initiating a formal process to reevaluate and retailer the project management approach. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and manage by exception, as it ensures the project remains aligned with business needs and that deviations from the plan are managed effectively. Specifically, it requires engaging the appropriate governance levels, e.g., project board, to approve necessary changes to the project's scope, resources, or management controls, ensuring that the project is still viable and that its management is proportionate to its size and complexity. An incorrect approach of ignoring the review's findings or making ad hoc, undocumented changes would be professionally unacceptable. This failure to formally address the identified issues would violate the PRINCE2 principle of manage by stages and manage by exception. It would mean that the project is not being controlled effectively, risks are not being properly assessed or mitigated, and the project board is not being kept informed of significant changes or potential issues. This can lead to a loss of business justification, uncontrolled scope creep, and ultimately, project failure. Another incorrect approach of overhauling the entire project management approach without a clear understanding of the specific issues identified by the review would also be professionally unsound. This demonstrates a lack of focused problem solving and could introduce unnecessary complexity and cost, potentially derailing the project further. It fails to apply the tailor to suit the project principle effectively by not being proportionate to the identified issues. The professional decision-making process should involve 1. Thoroughly understanding the findings of the operational review. 2. Assessing the impact of these findings on the project's size, complexity, risks, and business case. 3. Identifying the specific PRINCE2 elements that need adjustment, e.g., stage boundaries, reporting frequency, risk management approach, quality management approach. 4. Proposing a revised project management approach to the project board for approval, clearly articulating the rationale and benefits. 5. Implementing the approved changes in a controlled manner. Question 17. System analysis indicates that a project team is developing a product description for a new software application. The team has drafted an initial version, but there is a concern that certain technical specifications might be interpreted differently by various development teams. Which approach to managing this situation is most aligned with PRINCE2 foundation principles for ensuring product quality and preventing scope issues? Option A. Proceed with the current product description and rely on informal communication channels to resolve any interpretation differences. Option B. Conduct a targeted risk assessment specifically on the product description to identify potential ambiguities and define mitigation actions. Option C. Delegate the responsibility for refining the product description to the lead developer without further review. Option D. Assume that the development teams will clarify any ambiguities during the development phase as they arise. Correct answer is B. Conduct a targeted risk assessment specifically on the product description to identify potential ambiguities and define mitigation actions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the PRINCE2 foundation methodology, while providing a structured framework, requires careful application and interpretation in real-world project contexts. The challenge lies in ensuring that the product description, key document for defining what a project will deliver, is sufficiently detailed and accurate to prevent scope creep, misunderstandings, and ultimately, project failure. The need for a robust risk assessment approach is paramount to proactively identify and mitigate potential issues related to the product description's completeness and clarity. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment specifically focused on the product description. This means identifying potential risks such as ambiguity in requirements, lack of clarity on acceptance criteria, or incomplete definition of quality standards. By conducting this assessment early and iteratively, the project team can proactively develop mitigation strategies, such as seeking clarification from stakeholders, refining the product description with more detail, or establishing clear quality checks. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and manage by exception, as a well-defined product description is fundamental to ensuring the project remains aligned with business needs and that deviations are managed effectively. The PRINCE2 guidance emphasizes the importance of clear product definitions for effective project control and stakeholder agreement. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with a product description that has not undergone a dedicated risk assessment. This could manifest as assuming all requirements are understood without explicit verification, or neglecting to define clear acceptance criteria. Such an approach fails to adhere to the PRINCE2 principle of focus on products, by not ensuring the products are adequately defined and agreed upon. It also undermines the manage by stages principle by not establishing clear deliverables and their associated quality standards at the outset, increasing the likelihood of rework and scope creep. Furthermore, it neglects the proactive risk management inherent in PRINCE2, potentially leading to significant issues later in the project lifecycle that are more costly and difficult to resolve. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes the thoroughness and accuracy of product definitions. This involves understanding that the product description is not a static document, but one that requires ongoing attention and validation. When faced with a product description, the professional decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the purpose and audience of the product description. 2. Actively seeking stakeholder input and agreement. 3. Critically evaluating the clarity and completeness of all elements, and 4. Specifically assessing the risks associated with any ambiguities or omissions. This proactive and rigorous approach ensures that the project team has a solid foundation for delivery and control. Question 18. Stakeholder feedback indicates a strong desire to implement a new customer relationship management (CRM) system to improve sales efficiency. However, the initial cost of the system is substantial, and some stakeholders are concerned about the potential disruption to existing sales processes during the transition. The project board requires a clear justification for proceeding, focusing on the long-term value proposition. Which approach to assessing the project's viability is most aligned with PRINCE2 emphasis on continued business justification and a balanced view of project outcomes. Option A. Focus primarily on the reduction of administrative overheads, as this is the most easily measurable cost saving, and defer detailed analysis of potential revenue growth until after the system is fully operational. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis that identifies and quantizes all anticipated benefits, including intangible ones like improved customer retention and employee morale, alongside all associated costs, including implementation, training, and ongoing maintenance, and assess potential risks and their financial implications. Option C. Emphasize the strategic advantage of adopting modern technology to stay competitive, without a detailed breakdown of specific financial benefits or costs, as the long-term competitive edge is considered paramount. Option D. Prioritize the immediate, quantifiable increase in sales revenue projected by the new CRM system, while acknowledging the implementation costs as a necessary but secondary consideration. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the immediate quantifiable increase in sales revenue projected by the new CRM system, while acknowledging the implementation costs as a necessary but secondary consideration. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the perceived benefits of a proposed change against its actual costs, while also considering the diverse perspectives and potential impacts on various stakeholders. The PRINCE2 methodology emphasizes a business-driven approach, where projects are justified by their ability to deliver value. A robust cost-benefit analysis is fundamental to this justification, ensuring that resources are allocated effectively and that the project remains viable throughout its life cycle. The challenge lies in objectively evaluating both tangible and intangible benefits and costs, and in ensuring that the analysis is transparent and defensible to all parties involved. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective cost-benefit analysis that considers all relevant factors, both positive and negative, over the project's expected lifespan. This includes quantifying benefits where possible, but also acknowledging and qualitatively assessing intangible benefits. Similarly, all costs, including direct, indirect, and opportunity costs, must be identified and estimated. The analysis should be reviewed and validated by relevant stakeholders to ensure it reflects a realistic and comprehensive view of the project's potential value. This aligns with PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification, ensuring that the project remains worthwhile as circumstances change. An incorrect approach would be to focus solely on easily quantifiable benefits, while ignoring or downplaying less tangible but significant advantages, such as improved customer satisfaction or enhanced brand reputation. This failure to capture the full spectrum of benefits can lead to an overestimation of the project's value and a flawed business case. Another incorrect approach is to exclude or underestimate potential risks and their associated mitigation costs. Risks are inherent in any project, and their potential impact on costs and benefits must be factored into the analysis to provide a realistic assessment of the project's viability. Ignoring these aspects can lead to budget overruns and a failure to achieve desired outcomes. Professionals should approach this situation by first clearly defining the scope and objectives of the proposed change. They should then engage with all relevant stakeholders to identify and assess all potential benefits and costs, both tangible and intangible. A structured approach to risk assessment and management is crucial, with associated costs incorporated into the analysis. The resulting cost-benefit analysis should be presented clearly and transparently, allowing for informed decision-making regarding project initiation and continuation. This process ensures that decisions are based on a comprehensive understanding of the project's potential value and risks, adhering to the principles of good project governance. Question 19. Process analysis reveals that a PRINCE2 project team has identified a recurring issue with the accuracy of initial effort estimations for a specific type of task. The project manager is considering how to best address this to ensure continuous improvement. Which of the following actions best embodies the PRINCE2 principle of learn from experience in this situation? Option A. Implement a revised estimation technique for the remaining tasks of this type within the current project and share these findings with other ongoing projects. Option B. Immediately revise the project plan to reflect more conservative effort estimates for all remaining similar tasks. Option C. Conduct a post-project review to identify the root cause of the estimation inaccuracies and propose changes to the organizational estimation process. Option D. Document the estimation inaccuracies in a lessons learned report to be reviewed at the end of the project. The correct answer is D. Document the estimation inaccuracies in a lessons learned report to be reviewed at the end of the project. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for project delivery with the PRINCE2 principle of continuous improvement. Project managers are often under pressure to meet deadlines and budget constraints, which can lead to overlooking opportunities for learning and improvement. However, PRINCE2 mandates that projects should learn from experience, and this learning should be applied to future projects. The challenge lies in embedding this continuous improvement mindset within the project lifecycle, rather than treating it as an afterthought. Careful judgment is required to identify and act upon lessons learned without derailing the current project's objectives. The correct approach involves actively seeking, documenting, and disseminating lessons learned throughout the project lifecycle, and specifically at the end of each management stage and the project closure. This aligns with the PRINCE2 guidance on learn from experience, which is a fundamental principle. By integrating lessons learned into the project's ongoing activities and feeding them into the organizational process assets, the project contributes to the overall maturity and efficiency of the organization. This proactive approach ensures that improvements are identified and implemented in a timely manner, benefiting both the current project and future endeavors. An incorrect approach would be to only consider lessons learned at the very end of the project. This delays the application of valuable insights, potentially leading to repeated mistakes or missed opportunities for improvement within the current project itself. It also means that the organization misses out on the benefits of early adoption of best practices. Another incorrect approach is to document lessons learned, but not to actively share or integrate them into future project planning. This renders the lessons learned ineffective, as they remain isolated pieces of information rather than actionable improvements. Finally, ignoring lessons learned altogether or dismissing them as irrelevant to the current project demonstrates a failure to adhere to the PRINCE2 principle of continuous improvement and a lack of professional responsibility towards organizational learning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes the integration of lessons learned as a continuous activity. This involves establishing clear mechanisms for capturing feedback, conducting regular reviews, e.g., at stage boundaries, and ensuring that identified improvements are communicated and acted upon. The PRINCE2 framework provides the structure for this, but the professional judgment lies in actively embedding these practices into the project culture and workflow. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that a key assumption underpinning the project's original business case has become demonstrably false due to external market shifts, significantly impacting the projected return on investment. The project manager needs to advise the project board on the next steps to ensure the project's continued viability, which approach best aligns with PRINCE2 principles and regulatory expectations for ongoing business justification. Option A. Prioritize stakeholder feedback and request to adjust the project scope to accommodate the new market conditions, deferring a formal business case review until after these adjustments are made. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive reassessment of the business case, incorporating updated market data, revised risk assessments, and a new forecast of benefits and costs to determine if the project remains viable. Option C. Immediately halt the project and initiate a post-mortem analysis to understand how the assumption became false, without re-evaluating the business case for potential salvage. Option D. Proceed with the project as planned, assuming the initial business case remains valid despite the new information, to avoid disrupting progress and incurring further delays. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive reassessment of the business case, incorporating updated market data, revised risk assessments, and a new forecast of benefits and costs to determine if the project remains viable. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because the project's viability is being questioned mid-execution, requiring a swift and objective assessment without succumbing to sunk cost fallacy or undue pressure from stakeholders who may have vested interests. The PRINCE2 methodology, particularly within its UK/CISI regulatory context, mandates a rigorous and evidence-based approach to project viability, ensuring that public funds or organizational resources are not wasted on projects that can no longer deliver the expected benefits. The emphasis is on continued justification throughout the project lifecycle, not just at initiation. The correct approach involves a thorough re-evaluation of the business case, considering all available data, updated risk assessments, and revised benefit forecasts. This aligns with the PRINCE2 principle of continued business justification and the governance requirements often found in UK financial services or public sector guidelines, which demand accountability and prudent resource management. Specifically, the project board has a duty to ensure the project remains viable and to take decisive action if it does not, which includes stopping the project. This approach prioritizes the organization's strategic objectives and financial health over the continuation of a failing initiative. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the initial business case without incorporating new information fails to acknowledge the dynamic nature of projects and the potential for unforeseen changes. This neglects the PRINCE2 requirement for ongoing monitoring and control, and in a UK/CISI context, could be seen as a failure of due diligence and fiduciary responsibility. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes stakeholder satisfaction over objective viability assessment risks continuing a project that is no longer beneficial, potentially leading to significant financial losses and reputational damage, which is contrary to ethical project management and regulatory expectations for responsible governance. Finally, an approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or gut feeling, rather than structured risk assessment and data analysis, undermines the PRINCE2 emphasis on management by exception and informed decision-making, and is ethically unsound in any regulated environment. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem or change in circumstances. This is followed by gathering objective data, performing a structured analysis, including risk assessment and re-evaluation of the business case, consulting relevant PRINCE2 guidance and organizational policies, and then presenting a clear, evidence-based recommendation to the appropriate governance body, e.g., the project board, for a decision. This process ensures that decisions are transparent, justifiable, and aligned with the organization's best interests and regulatory obligations.